This guy, he feels more dangerous than all the others combined.
You don't believe me. Guys, I'm telling you, he's not what he seems.
He's been watching us for weeks.
They just filed a complaint, said you harassed them.
This guy wants us to think he's unassuming, but he's not.
Listen to yourself, Barry.
I don't understand why you don't see what's going on.
Calm down. Don't want you to do anything else you'll regret.
You broke into our home! Please, we are getting married in a week, Barry.
I'll be thinking of you.
Hey, according to the historical record, you disappeared halfway through the war, but that didn't affect the war itself. So I found you a loophole. Same time that you're from, just a different place. Huh. Hacked history.
This isn't Troy.
Nope, it's an island full of warrior women. It's cool, right?
Would your comrades be mad at you?
Yeah, they would be. But they knew what they were getting when they brought me on.
No, thank you. You've changed my destiny.
Best thing about this place? No boys allowed. You'll finally have some peace and quiet.
Hey everybody, whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Wonder Woman crossover. We finally learned the origin of the Thinker on The Flash, so there's just like a whole bunch of crazy stuff happening. I'll try to explain the mechanics of everything, especially the Wonder Woman crossover. That's probably the biggest question that everybody has. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get everything. There's new Flash Ring giveaway stuff going on that I'll explain at the end of the video. But just because you're probably asking about Wonder Woman stuff the most, I'll explain that first, then I'll explain the Flash footage. So, what happened is on Legends of Tomorrow, they had to get Helen of Troy, save her, and instead of taking her back to Troy in ancient Greece, they took her to Themyscira without completely trashing the timeline. Like, she disappeared at a very specific date. That date is when they took her to Themyscira. So if there was any question, this is the Themyscira from the Wonder Woman movie, so I'd be willing to bet that this isn't too long after Themyscira's creation, so Wonder Woman is still a very small baby. So it's possible that Wonder Woman would have grown up knowing about Helen of Troy, but I have a feeling that Hippolyta would have probably tried to keep that secret, so they would have just passed Helen of Troy off as a normal Amazon who lived a normal lifespan. So it's not like they're going to have Gal Gadot come on to the TV shows. Remember they did an advertisement last year with Wonder Woman's boots using the Supergirl character and using Linda Carter? Like even then, they didn't have the Wonder Woman actress come onto the TV shows. So all this really means is that we have Wonder Woman inside the DC TV universe, we just don't know what's going on with her, because the TV show's version of Wonder Woman will probably be a little bit different from the movie's version. But remember during Season 2 of The Flash, they already introduced the idea of Atlantis on Earth 2, meaning that there's an Atlantis somewhere on Earth 1 that they just haven't discovered yet. So there are just a lot of big Easter eggs like that they're saving for very specific moments. Like, oh yeah, by the way, this all exists in the universe. You know, who knows what we'll do with it in future episodes. So it's a really cool Easter egg, but don't drive yourself crazy trying to figure out where Wonder Woman is inside the world of Flash and Arrow. But the really cool thing about all this Flash footage is that we're finally seeing the origin of the Thinker. So like you see the Flash effect where everything starts rising in the air. That means that this protest in the background is probably the protest from the original particle accelerator explosion way back at the beginning of Season 1 that gave Barry his powers.
Barry, how was your trip?
Did you find proof of the impossible in Starling City, or did you just make my dad mad for no reason?
So you learn a little bit more about his character, who he was before he got his powers, and then what he decided to do once he got them. Because the footage jumps between present day where Barry's like, oh my god, he's been watching us this whole time, so I'm gonna start watching him, and they sort of use that against him. The rest of Team Flash doesn't believe him. But then you jump back and forth between different Thinker scenes in the past before he wound up in the wheelchair, putting the thinking cap on from the comics. So yeah, it's going to be cool to watch the Flash drive himself crazy trying to out the Thinker, and the Thinker just being 3 or 4 steps ahead of him the whole time. but we're also going to get to see the comic book evolution of the Thinker in the past, because there's been a bunch of different versions of the character just depending on what era of the comics you're in. The Golden Age version of the Thinker was a Jay Garrick villain. He wore a thinking cap, like a physical cap that looked just like this. But the more modern Jeff Johns incarnation is more of a cyberspace type villain, so it sounds like the Flash TV show is giving us all the different versions of the Thinker. So it's not like he went from this guy protesting at Star Labs during the particle accelerator explosion back in season 1 to this guy floating around in the chair. So it sounds like, because we've seen two different versions in present day, we've seen floaty chair version and we've seen wheelchair version, it sounds like the thinking cap that he wears, that he puts on during the flashback here, is the key to those two different versions. So I think the real big question is like, how can he be this guy here while we saw this guy in the back alley grabbing this metahuman? So like, how can this exist in physical space while this guy is also existing? So that's just something to think about, but it sounds like, Barry goes to his place of work during the day. Maybe he works at Central City University. They have a college in the city. We've never actually been there before. But I love how the mechanic slaps him here. Like, she's playing her role very well. You came into our home, like Reverse Flash style. He's peeping on them. Like, you can see him blur himself so that they don't see him. But remember, they've been watching him with the Samuroid head, so clearly Barry finds that out relatively early, and that's when he starts peeping on them inside their house, because Barry isn't one to break the law all the time. But I think the idea is the cumulative effect of all the things that have happened the last couple of seasons have just put him on edge, so he's willing to bend the rules because he's so certain that something's going on here. Like, imagine if Barry was like this back during season 1, he would have probably gone to Harrison Wells' house immediately to try and out him as the Reverse Flash, but at the time he didn't know, so he just hadn't gotten to that point yet. But this will kind of answer the question as to, if the Flash has all these powers, can he use them to out the Thinker, and how will the Thinker use that against him? Like, the whole key here is that Barry needs to catch him looking like this in the floaty chair, but I think the twist is that that's only happening in some different space, like mind space, cyberspace. But let me know in the comments, what do you think the key is to these two different versions of the Thinker that we've seen so far, given that we just saw him in the flashbacks put the thinking cap on his head? But what'll happen later is I'll post my Justice League post-credits video and my Arrow episode video. So remember, it's part 2 of the Deathstroke episode, and be sure to go see Justice League when you get the chance so that we can talk about all the spoilers, because there is a lot of stuff that we need to talk about. There's a new round of that Flash Ring giveaway. All you have to do to enter is just be a subscriber, leave a comment on this video about Flash-related stuff. Congratulations to the winner from the last video, Mike Powell. Please private message me so I can get your contact details. You can click here for my non-spoilery Justice League review, and you can click here for that brand new Deadpool trailer. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.